Most people think being broke means not having money in the bank, but that's not true. Broke is a condition of the mind, not the wallet. There's a reason why people who win the lottery often end up broke again within a few years. It's because they never learned how to think like wealthy people. They got money, but they kept a broke mindset. And when you have a broke mindset, you will always return to being broke, no matter how much money you make. Wealthy people, on the other hand, understand that money follows mindset. If you take all the money away from a true millionaire and drop them anywhere in the world with nothing, they will figure out how to make it back. Why? Because wealth isn't just about what you have, it's about what you know. A broke mindset focuses on lack, what's missing, what's wrong, what's not enough. A wealth mindset focuses on opportunity, how to create, how to build, how to expand. Most broke people say things like, I can't afford that, but wealthy people ask, how can I afford that? Broke people say, I don't have the money, while wealthy people say, I need to find a way to make the money. The words you speak reflect the thoughts in your mind, and your thoughts shape your financial reality. If you keep thinking broke thoughts, you will keep living a broke life. Another key difference is how broke and wealthy people see problems. Broke people avoid problems, they complain about them, they wish they would disappear. Wealthy people run toward problems because they understand that solving problems is how you create wealth. Every great business exists because it solves a problem. Every great innovation was born out of the need to fix something. If you change your mindset to see problems as opportunities, you will always be in a position to create value, and value attracts money. People with a broke mindset also believe that money is hard to get, and that belief becomes their reality. They believe the only way to make more money is to work harder, so they stay stuck in the cycle of trading time for dollars. Wealthy people understand that money is a tool and that it follows value, not effort. They know that money moves freely and abundantly to those who understand how to attract it. At the core of it all, being broke is a choice, not a conscious choice, because nobody wants to be broke, but a choice made through habits, beliefs, and actions repeated over time. If you were taught to think like a broke person, you will live like a broke person until you decide to cycle. And that cycle can only be broken when you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from fear to opportunity, from limitation to possibility. Money is not something you chase, it's something you attract by the value you create. Too many people spend their lives chasing money, working harder, picking up extra shifts, getting a second job, or trying to cut expenses down to nothing. But none of that leads to wealth. Because wealth is not a result of working harder, it's a result of providing more value over time. The people who make the most money in the world are the ones who have found a way to make their value valuable to more people for a longer period of time. You think about the wealthiest individuals in the world. They didn't get rich because they worked harder than everyone else. They got rich because they created something valuable that people wanted and needed. Jeff Bezos didn't become a billionaire by working overtime. He became a billionaire by building a system that allowed millions of people to get products delivered to their door with ease. Elon Musk didn't get wealthy because he saved every penny he created companies that solved massive problems in transportation, energy, and technology. The problem with most broke people is that they believe money is the reward for effort, but in reality, money is the reward for value. This is why two people can work the same number of hours, put in the same level of effort, and yet one makes 10 times more than the other. It's not about how much they worked, it's about how much value they created during that time. Value is created in two ways: by solving problems and by making people's lives better. Every single dollar you've ever earned came from providing value to someone else. Whether you're flipping burgers at a fast food restaurant or closing million-dollar deals, the money you receive is a direct reflection of the value others perceive in what you do. The problem is that most people settle for delivering small amounts of value to a small number of people, which is why they stay broke. Another reason broke people struggle is because they trade their time for money. Time is limited. You only have 24 hours in a day, and if you're working a job, you're only getting paid for the hours you work. That means your income is automatically capped. But wealthy people understand that the key is to separate time from value. They build businesses, create digital products, write books, or invest in assets that continue to provide value long after they've put in the initial effort. This is why a musician can record an album once and get paid for it for decades. It's why an author can write a book and continue to earn royalties year after year. It's why an entrepreneur who creates a software product can sell it to millions of people without having to manually deliver it each time. They aren't making money because they're working harder. They're making money because they've found a way to package value in a way that scales. The other key part of this equation is time. Wealth is built over time, not overnight. Broke people look for quick money, get rich quick schemes, lottery tickets, fast paychecks. But the reality is, true wealth comes from building something valuable and letting it compound over time. Most people underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 or 10 years because they're too focused on what they can get in a week or a month. They quit too soon because they don't see instant results, never realizing that wealth is the result of consistent value creation over time. People who understand this principle don't worry about money because they know that as long as they keep creating value, money will always flow to them. They focus on developing skills, solving bigger problems, and reaching more people because they understand that money is just a byproduct of the value they provide. The more people you help, the more money you make. The more problems you solve, the more money you make. The more value you create, the more wealth you build. Most people are stuck in a system designed to keep them broke. From a young age, we are taught that the way to make money is to go to school, get good grades, get a stable job, and trade our time for a paycheck. And while that may help you survive, it will never make you wealthy. The reason is simple: if you are working for money, then money controls you. But if you learn how to make money work for you, you control it. The vast majority of people spend their entire lives working for money. They wake up early, commute to work, put in 8 or more hours a day, and wait for that paycheck to hit their bank account every 2 weeks. And no matter how hard they work, they're still just one step away from being broke. If they lose their job, their income stops. If they get sick and can't work, their income stops. They are completely dependent on someone else deciding how much they get paid and when they get paid. That's a dangerous way to live because it means you have no control over your financial future. Wealthy people think differently. They understand that money is a tool. It's not something you work for, it's something you put to work for you. Instead of working for a paycheck, they focus on creating assets. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket whether you work or not. Real estate that pays you rent, stocks that pay you dividends, businesses that generate revenue. Without you being there, these are all assets that make money work for you. Broke people, on the other hand, spend all their money on liabilities. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. A new car with a high monthly payment, that's a liability. A bigger house with a bigger mortgage, that's a liability. The latest gadgets and designer clothes, all liabilities. The problem is that most people confuse liabilities with assets. They think that just because they own something, it's an asset. But if it's not putting money in your pocket, it's not an asset, it's a liability. This is why wealthy people invest their money while broke people spend theirs. When a wealthy person gets paid, they don't rush out to buy the latest iPhone or a new car. They use that money to buy assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, things that will continue to make them money long after they've made the initial investment. Broke people, on the other hand, take their paycheck and immediately spend it on things that lose value. And because they never invest in assets, they are forced to keep working for money instead of having money work for them. Another key difference is how wealthy and broke people handle time. Broke people only get paid when they work. If they stop working, their income stops. But wealthy people understand that in order to truly be free, they need to separate their income from their time. That's why they focus on building passive income streams, income that keeps coming in whether they work or not. They build businesses that operate without them. They invest in real estate that pays them rent every month, and they own stocks that generate dividends. They understand that true wealth comes from creating systems that produce money on autopilot. Broke people often believe that the only way to make more money is to work harder, but that's simply not true. You can only work so many hours in a day. Even if you work 16 hours a day, there's still a limit to how much you can earn. Wealthy people know that working harder is not the answer, working smarter is. Instead of trading their time for money, they figure out how to make their money multiply. They invest in businesses, they leverage other people's time and skills, and they build income streams that don't require their constant effort. Most people stay broke because they never learn how to break free from the cycle of working for money. They spend their lives focused on earning a paycheck instead of building wealth. They put their money in savings accounts that earn almost nothing instead of investing it in assets that grow. They work hard, but they never stop to think about how to make their money work, just as hard as they do. The truth is, until you learn how to put your money to work, you will always be a slave to it. Most people believe that the key to wealth is making more money. They think, if I could just get a higher paying job, if I could just make 6 figures, if I could just double my income, then all my financial problems would be solved. But that's a lie. The truth is, it doesn't matter how much you make, it matters how much you keep. There are people making millions of dollars a year who are still broke because they spend every penny they earn. And there are people making a fraction of that who are financially free because they understand how to control, multiply, and leverage their money. The biggest financial trap most people fall into is lifestyle inflation. The moment they start making more money, they start spending more money. They get a raise at work, and instead of using that extra income to build wealth, they upgrade their car, move into a bigger house, buy more expensive clothes, and take fancier vacations. They think they're getting ahead, but all they're doing is increasing their financial obligations. Their income goes up, but so do their expenses, and they stay trapped in the same cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher level. But wealthy people don't fall into this trap because they understand that making money is only the first step. The real key is managing and multiplying it. They know that financial freedom doesn't come from how much you earn, but from how much you keep and what you do with it. That's why they focus on creating systems that allow them to retain and grow their wealth instead of just increasing their income. One of the biggest differences between broke people and wealthy people is how they handle their money after they get paid. Broke people spend first and save whatever is left, if there's anything left at all. Wealthy people do the exact opposite. They invest first, save second, and only spend what remains. They understand that money is a tool, and if they don't put it to work for them, it will disappear. Another critical mistake broke people make is thinking that budgeting and cutting expenses is the way to wealth. Now, don't get it twisted. Being mindful of your spending is important, but you cannot save your way to wealth. You could cut back on lats, cancel your Netflix subscription, and never eat out again. But if your only strategy is reducing expenses, you will still never get rich. Why? Because you're focusing on limitation instead of multiplication. Wealthy people don't just focus on keeping money, they focus on multiplying it. Every dollar that comes into their hands has a job to do. It's either being reinvested in assets, businesses, or income-producing opportunities. They don't let money sit in a savings account earning nothing because they understand that money loses value over time due to inflation. Instead, they put it in vehicles that allow it to grow stocks, real estate businesses, and other income-generating assets. Another mistake broke people make is failing to understand the power of leverage. They believe they have to work harder and save more to get ahead, but wealthy people understand that money is a game of strategy, not effort. They use other people's money, other people's skills, and other people's time to accelerate their wealth-building process. They take calculated risks, invest in opportunities, and create systems that allow their money to multiply without them having to do all the work. Taxes are another area where the difference between broke people and wealthy people is massive. Broke people don't think about taxes until tax season rolls around, and by then it's too late. They get hit with a huge tax bill because they don't understand how to legally reduce their tax burden. Wealthy people, on the other hand, structure their income in a way that allows them to keep more of what they earn. They set up businesses, invest in tax-advantaged assets, and use strategies that allow them to keep more money in their pockets instead of handing it over to the government. Wealthy people also understand that debt is a tool, not a trap. Broke people use debt to buy liabilities, cars, clothes, vacations, and things that don't make them any money. Wealthy people use debt to acquire assets, real estate, businesses, and investments that generate income. They leverage good debt to scale their wealth while broke people drown in bad debt that keeps them financially stuck. At the core of it all, the difference between staying broke and becoming wealthy is not just about how much money flows into your life, but how much stays in your control and how effectively you put it to work. The money you make can disappear in an instant if you don't have a system to retain and multiply it. Most people have only one source of income, their job. They wake up every day, go to work, put in their hours, and rely on that single paycheck to cover all their expenses. This is the most dangerous financial position to be in because the moment that income stream stops, everything falls apart. If they get laid off, their bills don't stop. If they get sick and can't work, their landlord doesn't care. If the company they work for decides to downsize, they are left scrambling. And this is why so many people live in a constant state of stress because they have no financial security. Wealthy people never rely on just one source of income. They understand that financial security and freedom come from having multiple streams of income. If one stream dries up, they have others flowing in. If one business fails, they have another that's still generating cash. If the stock market drops, they have real estate bringing in passive income. They have set themselves up in a way that ensures that money is always coming in from different directions. The problem with relying on one income source, especially if that source is a job, is that it puts all the power in someone else's hands. Your employer decides how much you get paid when you get paid, and if you even get paid at all. And as long as your livelihood depends on someone else's decision, you will never have true financial freedom. Wealthy people refuse to put themselves in that position. They create multiple streams of income so that no single person, company, or industry can control their financial destiny. The first step to building multiple streams of income is to start with what you already know. What skills do you have? What knowledge do you possess? What problems can you solve for others? Too many people believe that the only way to make more money is to get another job, but that just means trading more of your time for dollars. Instead, wealthy people look for ways to monetize what they already know. They create online courses, coaching programs, or consulting services based on their expertise. They write books, start YouTube channels, or create digital products that can be sold over and over again without requiring their constant involvement. Another powerful way to create multiple income streams is through investing. The stock market, real estate, and business investments all provide opportunities to generate additional income without relying solely on a paycheck. Wealthy people understand that their money should always be working for them. They invest in dividend-paying stocks that provide passive income. They buy rental properties that generate monthly cash flow. They invest in businesses that operate and grow without them having to be involved in the day-to-day operations. One of the biggest mistakes broke people make is thinking they don't have enough money to start investing. They believe that investing is only for the rich, so they never even try. But the truth is, you don't need millions to start building wealth, you just need to start. Even if you only have a small amount, putting that money to work in an asset that generates income will set you on the path to financial freedom. The key is to focus on assets that grow over time and create cash flow instead of just sitting in a savings account losing value to inflation. Another powerful income stream is business ownership. The wealthiest people in the world don't work for someone else, they own businesses. Now, this doesn't mean you have to start a massive corporation. You can start small. A side hustle, a service business, or an e-commerce store. There are endless ways to create additional streams of income without quitting your job. The key is to build something that has the potential to generate income even when you're not actively working. Affiliate marketing, digital products, and automated sales systems are also ways to create income that doesn't require constant effort. Wealthy people build systems that allow them to make money in their sleep. They create content that continues to generate revenue long after it's published. They build email lists, set up automated sales funnels, and create income streams that work for them 24/7. Broke people make the mistake of only focusing on earned income, the money they get from working. But wealthy people focus on passive income, money that comes in regardless of whether they're working or not. This is the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and achieving true financial freedom. When you have multiple income streams, you are no longer dependent on any single one. You have options, you have security, and you have the ability to create wealth on your terms. The difference between wealthy people and broke people is not just in what they do, it's in how they think. Your mindset is the foundation of your financial future. If you have a broke mindset, you will always struggle with money, no matter how much you make. If you have a wealth mindset, you will always find a way to create abundance no matter where you start. The way you think about money, success, and opportunity determines what shows up in your life. Most broke people have a scarcity mindset. They believe that money is hard to get, that opportunities are rare, and that wealth is only for a select few. They see money as something limited, something they have to fight for, something they have to hold on to tightly, and something that always seems to slip through their fingers. They think in terms of lack instead of abundance, and because of that, they make decisions that keep them broke. They avoid taking risks because they're afraid of losing what little they have. They underprice their skills and services because they don't believe people will pay them more. They stay in jobs they hate because they think it's the only way to survive. Wealthy people, on the other hand, have an abundance mindset. They believe that money is unlimited, that opportunities are everywhere, and that wealth is something anyone can create. They understand that money is simply a tool, one that flows to those who create value. They don't see money as something to chase, but as something that naturally comes to those who solve problems and serve others. They believe that every problem has a solution and every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Because of this mindset, they make different choices, they take calculated risks, they invest in themselves, and they position themselves to receive more. One of the biggest mindset shifts wealthy people make is understanding that money is a game, and like any game, there are rules. Broke people play the money game emotionally. They fear losing money, they make impulsive financial decisions, and they let their past experiences dictate their financial future. Wealthy people play the money game strategically. They learn the rules of investing, business, and leverage. They understand how money works, and they use that knowledge to make decisions that build long-term wealth. Another key difference is how broke and wealthy people view failure. Broke people see failure as the end. They let one financial setback, one bad investment, or one business mistake convince them that they will never be successful. They stop trying and they stay stuck. Wealthy people see failure as feedback. They understand that every mistake is a lesson, every loss is an investment in learning, and every setback is temporary. Instead of quitting, they adjust their approach, learn from their experiences, and keep going until they succeed. Broke people also have limiting beliefs about money. They think money is the root of all evil, rich people are greedy, or I'm just not good with money. These beliefs keep them broke because they create a negative relationship with wealth. If you believe money is evil, you will subconsciously push it away. If you believe rich people are bad, you will never allow yourself to become wealthy. If you believe you're bad with money, you will never take the time to learn how to manage and multiply it. Wealthy people, on the other hand, have empowering beliefs about money. They believe that money is a tool for freedom. They believe that the more they earn, the more they can give. They believe that financial success is a reflection of the value they provide to the world. Because of these beliefs, they welcome wealth into their lives and they use it to create opportunities for themselves and others. Another critical mindset shift is understanding that money flows to confidence. Broke people second-guess themselves. They doubt their abilities. They hesitate to ask for what they're worth, and they let fear control their decisions. Wealthy people operate with confidence. They know their value. They believe in their ability to create wealth, and they take action even when they don't have all the answers. Their confidence attracts opportunities, partnerships, and financial success. One of the most important things wealthy people do is invest in their mindset. They read books, attend seminars, hire mentors, and surround themselves with other successful people. They know that their level of wealth will never exceed their level of personal growth, so they constantly work on developing themselves. They understand that financial success starts in the mind, and they make it a priority to think like wealthy people before they ever become wealthy. Broke people, on the other hand, spend more time being entertained than being educated. They watch TV, scroll through social media, and consume mindless content that does nothing to improve their financial situation. They surround themselves with other broke people who reinforce their limiting beliefs. They never invest in learning about money, business, or investing, and as a result, they stay stuck in the same cycle of financial struggle. The truth is, your bank account is a reflection of your mindset. If you want to change your financial situation, you have to change the way you think. Wealth starts in the mind before it ever shows up in your life. Money flows to those who solve problems. The amount of money you make is directly tied to the size and significance of the problems you solve. Broke people struggle financially because they only solve small problems that anyone can solve. Problems that don't create much value and problems that don't require much skill or innovation. Wealthy people, on the other hand, understand that the key to making more money is solving bigger problems for more people. The greater the problem you solve, the greater the financial reward. Most people live paycheck to paycheck because they are stuck in a cycle of exchanging their time for money at the lowest level of problem solving. They work jobs where they are simply following instructions, performing basic tasks, or handling minor inconveniences. They do things that thousands or even millions of other people can do, which means they are easily replaceable. And because they are replaceable, their income is limited. Wealthy people think differently. They know that money is a reward for creating value. The more value they create, the more money they make. And the way to create massive value is by solving problems that matter, problems that affect a large number of people, problems that people are willing to pay a premium to fix, problems that make life easier, faster, more efficient, or more enjoyable. The more people you help and the bigger the impact you make, the more money will flow into your life. Think about it. Why does a fast food worker make minimum wage while a brain surgeon makes millions? It's not just because one job requires more education. It's because one person is solving a much bigger problem. A fast food worker is solving the simple problem of I need food quickly, which thousands of other workers can also solve. But a brain surgeon is solving a life or death problem that very few people in the world are trained to fix. The difference in income is directly related to the difference in the size and complexity of the problems being solved. This is why wealthy people focus on developing high-income skills that allow them to solve bigger problems that fewer people can solve. Skills like sales, marketing, negotiation, investing, business strategy, think leadership. These are skills that create massive value and open doors to opportunities that average people never see. While broke people focus on working harder at the same low-value tasks, wealthy people focus on increasing their ability to solve bigger and more complex problems. Another critical factor is scalability. Wealthy people don't just solve problems one-on-one, they solve them at scale. They create systems, businesses, and products that solve problems for thousands or even millions of people at once. Instead of being limited by their personal time and effort, they build leverage. A consultant who helps one client at a time will always be limited by the number of hours in a day. But an entrepreneur who creates software that solves the same problem for millions of people can generate unlimited income. Think about the biggest companies in the world: Amazon, Apple, Tesla, Facebook. What do they all have in common? They solve massive problems for massive amounts of people. Amazon solves the problem of convenience, getting products to people fast and efficiently. Apple solves the problem of communication and technology, giving people powerful, easy-to-use devices. Tesla solves the problem of sustainable energy and transportation. Facebook solves the problem of connection, allowing people to stay in touch no matter where they are in the world. These companies make billions because they solve big problems at scale. Broke people make the mistake of focusing only on what they can do instead of what problems they can solve. They think, I'm just a teacher, or I'm just a mechanic, or I'm just a cashier, without realizing that their value in the marketplace is determined by the size of the problem they solve. A teacher who works for a school earns a fixed salary, but a teacher who creates online courses, writes books, and builds an education business can make millions by solving the problem of learning on a much larger scale. A mechanic who fixes cars one at a time earns an hourly wage, but a mechanic who starts a nationwide auto repair franchise or invents a new tool that makes car repairs faster can generate massive wealth. One of the fastest ways to increase your income is to ask yourself, what bigger problem can I solve? Instead of just looking for a better job or a higher paying gig, look for ways to add more value. Can you find a way to serve more people? Can you use technology to reach a wider audience? Can you create a system that solves a problem more efficiently? Broke people avoid problems, but wealthy people run toward them. They look at problems as opportunities, knowing that every major breakthrough in business, technology, and society came from someone who saw a problem and decided to solve it. The bigger the problem, the bigger the potential reward. Most people are stuck in a cycle of short-term thinking when it comes to money. They focus on immediate needs, monthly bills, and short-lived pleasures without ever considering the long-term impact of their financial decisions. They live paycheck to paycheck, spending everything they earn on things that lose value the moment they buy them. They finance cars they can't afford, rack up credit card debt on things that don't generate income, and never invest in assets that will create wealth for the future. This short-term mindset is one of the biggest reasons why so many people remain broke their entire lives. Wealthy people think differently. They understand that building wealth is a long-term game, and they operate with a generational mindset. Instead of just thinking about making money for today, they think about how to create wealth that will last for decades, even centuries. They don't just want to make money for themselves. They want to build a financial foundation that will benefit their children, their grandchildren, generations beyond. One of the biggest differences between the wealthy and the broke is how they use money. Broke people spend their money as soon as they get it. They prioritize immediate gratification over long-term security. They buy expensive clothes, upgrade their phones every year, eat out constantly, and finance lifestyles they can't truly afford. They work hard for their money, but they never make their money work for them. They focus on looking rich instead of actually becoming rich. Wealthy people, on the other hand, use their money strategically. They invest in assets that appreciate over time, real estate, businesses, stocks, and intellectual property. They put their money into things that generate cash flow so that they can eventually stop working and let their money take care of them. They reinvest their profits instead of wasting them on things that don't produce more wealth. They understand that every dollar they earn has the potential to grow if they use it wisely. Another key factor is patience. Broke people want quick results. They fall for get-rich-quick schemes, gamble their money on risky investments, and chase overnight success. But wealth doesn't work like that. Every truly wealthy person understands that wealth is built over time through consistency, discipline, and smart financial decisions. They are willing to play the long game, knowing that small, smart investments made consistently over years will eventually grow into massive wealth. Take real estate, for example. A broke person looks at a property and says, "I can't afford that," or "That's too much money," without understanding how real estate appreciates over time and generates passive income. A wealthy person looks at the same property and asks, "How can I acquire this?" They understand that a property purchased today could double in value over the next decade, and in the meantime, it can generate rental income that covers expenses and produces cash flow. They see wealth creation as a long-term process, not a short-term transaction. The same principle applies to business. Most broke people want the security of a job because it provides immediate income. They fear the uncertainty of entrepreneurship because it requires patience and delayed gratification. But wealthy people know that starting a business, even if it takes years to become highly profitable, can create generational wealth that a job never will. They are willing to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term financial independence. One of the most important aspects of generational wealth is financial education. Broke people do not educate themselves about money. They don't study investing, they don't learn about taxes, and they don't pass down financial knowledge to their children. As a result, every generation has to start from scratch. They make the same mistakes their parents made, struggle with the same financial problems, and continue the cycle of poverty or financial instability. Wealthy people make financial education a priority. They read books, take courses, attend seminars, and surround themselves with mentors who teach them how to grow and protect wealth. But they don't just keep this knowledge to themselves, they pass it down. They teach their children how to invest, how to manage money, and how to think about wealth in a way that ensures it continues to grow for generations. They set up trusts, create estate plans, and build financial structures that keep their wealth intact long after they are gone. Another major difference between broke and wealthy people is their relationship with debt. Broke people use debt to buy liabilities, cars, clothes, vacations, and things that lose value. They take out loans for things that don't make them any money, and they end up paying interest on things that are not helping them build wealth. Wealthy people use debt as a tool. They borrow money to acquire income-producing assets. They use leverage to buy real estate, fund businesses, and make investments that generate returns. They understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, and they use it to accelerate their wealth-building process. One of the most overlooked aspects of building generational wealth is protecting it. Many people work hard to build a fortune, but because they fail to plan properly, that wealth disappears within a generation. This is why wealthy families set up legal structures like trusts, wills, and investment portfolios that ensure their money continues to grow and be passed down properly. They understand that making money is one thing, but keeping it and multiplying it is another skill entirely. Broke people think about money in terms of survival, how to make enough to get through the month, how to pay the bills, how to afford rent. Wealthy people think about money in terms of legacy, how to build something that lasts, how to create financial security for their children's children, how to ensure that their efforts today will benefit their family for generations. They don't just work for money, they build wealth systems that continue to generate income long after they are gone. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about wealth is that you need to start rich to become rich. But history proves this is false. Many of the wealthiest families today started with nothing. They built their wealth by making smart financial decisions, investing in assets, and thinking long-term. The problem is most people are unwilling to adopt the mindset and discipline required to do the same. They want immediate results, instant gratification, and short-term comfort, which is why they remain stuck. Wealthy people understand that the choices they make today will determine their financial future decades from now. They don't just think about how to make money in the present, they think about how to create a financial foundation that will continue to grow long after they are gone. They don't just focus on working hard, they focus on making sure that their money works harder than they do. They don't just chase income, they build assets, invest strategically, and create a legacy of wealth that lasts for generations.